Da 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 da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a few minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never popped into one of my lives before, I am Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside, and fresh like a loaf of bread every single day, I show up here and I share a little bit of that outside and I share a little bit of that inside. I share a lot of that inside as of late, but I am moved how I am meant to move, and it is what it is. But I am grateful to be here in this moment to be able to share my amazing day. That's what we'll do. We are picking the next word for the week, but we always start off with a little bit of spiel, a little bit of flow, a little bit of whatever comes to the surface in the moment. And in the moment, I thought I'd share my amazing day. My sister called me this morning. Mondays, we usually like to go thrifting. And she phoned me in the morning, said I'm on my way. I threw on my clothes, and oh, she was cranky, 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 right? But we did our stores because she wanted to get home really fast. But she cranked through the whole time. I says, I think parts of you don't want you to feel that way. And I think you get more of those kind of feelings when you feel that way, right? She listens to me. She gets me. I don't know if any of it is absorbed, but at the very least, she is somebody who I can be myself with and express myself. And we were driving home. We were driving while we were driving home, and I stopped. I meant to go down a main drag, but instead I went down the drag that gets me home. But we were going off to her house to clean out her storage room because her storage room was really messy. So I thought I'd go over and visit her and give her a hand cleaning out the storage room and everything. And we got stopped at a railway, like a train car was going, but it was going so slow. We were just there for like 20 minutes and the car was on E. Yeah, you can get where I'm going with this. Finally, the train, after about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, it got past the road. And I stopped the car because I knew I was on empty. I was driving, and it was my sister's car. And I knew I was on empty. So I turned the car off. But when I went to start it again, it went like 2 feet and then it just died. And I knew instantly that we had run out of gas. And you could say we ran out of gas because of the train taking so long. But maybe not. Maybe we would have run out of gas anyway, right? Maybe I would have missed the gas station. I did realize that we were on E, and I had it in my mind when we passed a gas station to stop and get gas, but the train didn't quite make that possible, and I didn't think to turn the car off. But it turned into a big, hairy, scary, and we thought she was cranky to start with. Oh my goodness, right? She was like the little Tasmanian devil, and she has an amazing, beautiful boyfriend, right? Who took off of work, got permission, took off of work to come and rescue us. And we were back on the road right away. But, it was the experience. And I said to her, see? That's what I did. I said, see? It's your soul saying, stop being cranky, be happy, and then good things happen. And she looked at me, right? But she knew, right? And she knew, and she watched herself, right? She watched herself after that. And really, right? It was an experience, is what it is. And, it's better she has that experience when it's +6 outside instead of when it's like -40. This is how I look at it. I'm always the optimist. I always look at the good things of that. And on top of that, when she went to get a jerry can. She called a cab to get a jerry can, but they didn't have jerry cans, so she had to wait for her boyfriend to come and get her at the gas station. But in the meantime, I got out the Windex, and well, I actually used a mud puddle. I didn't know she had any Windex or wipes or anything, but she had paper towels, so I went and I took the paper towel to the mud puddle, and I cleaned her entire interior of her car for her. So, the good of it is she's going to get up in the morning and she doesn't, right? She's going to get into a nice clean car. It's going to make her feel really good. And also, we're expecting it to get cold this week. So it's good to have the car cleaned out for winter, because she'll probably won't clean it again. She probably won't clean it again until spring. Okay, but I wanted to share that to you because it is true, right? Because when you're miserable, you're agitating those other parts of you that are so sensitive, right? To these emotions of stress and anger and frustration, right? It likes the love, right? That's a great high, a great feeling to have. But in reality, right, it's not always plausible, right? It's not always um, um, that you can move through life, right? Avoiding, well, maybe you can avoid running out of gas, right? You just got to make sure that there's always gas in the car, right? We'll see. We see. Sometimes it's just these small things that people bring to attention. That's how it happened with me. Just small things that were brought to my attention, and it makes me think. And then I put myself in my own shoes in those situations that I relate to, and I look at it with these eyes, with these adult eyes, with these educated eyes, and I look at it again, because I got to remember I'm coming up from trauma, right? Complex trauma, and it's all that childhood stuff that just builds up, builds up, builds up, right? And then finally, right? And it is trauma, but it's not that instant terrifying one. It's just all those small ones that, after a while it just brings you down so bad and you go, "Oh, what's the point?" But I may have felt that way, and today was a good indicator of that. I know we're picking our word today, but today was a good indicator of that too, is because I went to get my glasses today. I got my glasses, you guys. Oh, right? I would have gotten a phone call this afternoon if I didn't get my glasses. So it's in the dispensary. They're being made. I'm so excited, and I'm pleased with the frames because I was able, I think, to use the frames that I chose and not just frames that somebody else chose for me because the prescription worked. So I was in a good mood. I was so relieved because all that stress and those bad and stressful and those frustrating feelings, all that work I was putting into it, it's all done. Now it's just a waiting game for them to get to me, right? But all those emotions have interactions within parts of us, right? And I try to avoid it. Baby steps helps. I'm making big strides forward. I'm moving forward. I think just as well as anybody who might have been taking, the same steps at the same time as I was. And they may have been moving faster, but sometimes when you move really, really fast, you don't absorb things properly. And some things you just totally miss because they're going so fast, or right, you don't have enough time to process whether or not something's safe, and sometimes you just have to hold on to it and have the smallest interaction that you possibly can with it in order to have those understandings of whether or not something is or is not for you, right? Okay, you guys, we are picking our new word today. We are on word number 16. Now, if you haven't come into one of my lives before, again, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And in this series that I'm doing right now, we are putting a deck of cards together. And I have over 60 words here, but of those 60 words, we are going to pick 54 of those words and put them into a deck. They're just words, right? But very impactful. I think they're impactful words. Now, I don't look at the words or anything, so I don't even remember where they are, except for that word forgiveness, because I really wanted that word. I was craving and munching, hoping to get that word, right? And I come to realize that the words have been kind of sorted. If you go back into the words that I picked, you will see there's kind of a bit of a sequencing, at least for me, in how it affects my life. But I find, when I follow the content of some of my peers, calling them peers now, it's pretty good. Baby steps. I did that. I did that with baby steps, right? That I'm able to recognize that these situations are just going uh with everybody, right? They might look a little bit different, again, because we are so many ingredients as uniques in those human parts of us and those soul parts of us who just need these lessons just as much, because I'm situated somewheres in the middle, right? I will never, right? Well, in Cindy's life, I will never be, right? But I will never be that again either. I have no choice but to move towards that, right? But understanding that because I'm doing it in baby steps, that I'll have that opportunity to absorb the lessons a little bit better. Maybe go a little bit deeper because it is in baby steps, that it's not so scary when you get used to the steps, right? As long as you don't put that English horror music behind it, oh my goodness, it could be the most boringest movie ever made. But the truth is, nobody can make a movie spooky with music like the Brits can. Oh, I tell you, right? You're expecting something's going to jump out of the candle, go, what's going, and then nothing happens and it just kind of fades it out. But all those emotions are brought up into you with the fanfare, with the music, with the, right, that it draws us. And right, and maybe, right, I have my own little bit of flair. But we're on word number 16, you guys. I got my highlighter ready. First day that I picked the word, obviously, it's just going to be a first perspective on what first comes to my mind when the word comes up. I haven't had to dance around the subject, I don't think, too much in those first impressions, because sometimes they're deep, deep words, right? You have to jump right into it. But I have to be honest in it. And in that first impression, because my understanding of the sequences and how it's working with me, that I suspect it'll be a little bit of a ride this week for me. But we're going to do it in a way that's as light as I possibly can do it, because I'm not looking to re-traumatize myself. I am looking here, right? And putting myself into those shoes, right, of myself when I was a child, but looking at it through the eyes of the person that I am now, that have got a little bit of lessons under the belt, and right, some of those tools now that will probably help me out quite a bit in understanding how whatever word we pick impacts my life, right? Or something I might have to, I don't know, but there'll be a message here, one way or another. Now, my finished yabbering about my day. It was an amazing day. I got my glasses. We did some thrifting. we only found one. I found a movie for my Christmas holidays. I put it away already, but I've got my movies for the Christmas holidays, really good ones because I'm a big um, um, Ice Age fan. So this was a movie Epic created by the same people who made Ice Age. So I grabbed it for the Christmas holidays because, right, it belongs in my collection. It does, right? It does. Okay, you guys, I'm procrastinating here. Let's get into this word. What word are we picking this week? Are you kidding me? You guys. We have forgiveness. Oh, I just laugh at the serendipity. Didn't I? Wasn't I just talking about it? Okay, you guys, we are. I love it. I love it. We are talking about forgiveness this week. It was one of the most important. Okay, some of you are gonna have heard this story before, but just to give you an idea how impactful this word forgiveness is. If you've been with me for any length of time, you know I've come from a very dynamic family. My mother had some experiences herself, right? Borderline, codependent, little bit narcissistic. Uh, she was, oh my goodness, right? I had a very difficult time with her. I spent most of my childhood and young adulthood because I was bound to my family because my father had congenital heart disease, and I loved my father very, very much. And I wasn't going to run away from home, and I wasn't going to stress my father out and give him a heart attack like my mother told me I would. Every time she had an interaction, don't tell your father, don't discuss it with them. You're going to give him a heart attack, and it's in the programming, right? It's in the programming. And as an adult, and as the person that I am now, with those tools that I have in my belt, I understand it. I get it, right? But I didn't understand at the time when I got this lesson, forgiveness, but I understand it now, right? I wasn't even fully awake to any of these ideas, but I think I had already been in the process for a little while, right? Without me actually knowing what was going on, right? And my mother got sick. She actually had cancer. My mother didn't like doctors. And she worked in hospitals her entire life. She knew exactly, this might be triggering, by the way. I'm just going to let everybody know if you have, right? It's going to be talking about a little bit about death and cancer, I guess. I'm just going to mention it lightly because it's not the biggest part of the story, right? The word forgiveness is the biggest part of the story. And, you know, she had cancer. She had stage 4 cancer. Um, we went out for breakfast one day, and it happened to be my birthday. She was coughing into her napkin. I noticed there was blood in her napkin. My sister took it to the hospital the very next day. A couple of days after that, we got the diagnosis. It was stage 4 cancer. My mother never admitted to it, but my mother knew she was sitting there at that breakfast table go, oh, it's nothing. It's nothing. Oh, I bit my, like she was just fibbing. Oh, my mother was a big liar. She was just fibbing away, right? So we knew something was up. We took her to the hospital. Turned out to be stage 4 cancer. From the time we got the diagnosis that she had stage 4 cancer, she had a week to live, less than a week to live. That's how far along she let this go without any kind of attention at all. It must have been absolutely heartbreaking for her. Um, but at the same time, I'm estranged from her. Right, in my heart, I'm thinking, I could care less. Isn't that a terrible thing to say, right? That you would say something like, you know, right? I'm not going to miss her, right? I'm not going to feel anything when she passes away. And my sisters were devastated. They were absolutely just devastated. And my sister Tracy says, we don't even know what she wants for funerals, or if she wants to go be buried with dad, or she wants to stay here with the kids, or she wants to be, we don't know anything. But they did not have the courage to, right. It was devastating for them, right? I wasn't bound to her. I had separated from my mother very, 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 very young. We're talking probably very young, baby, like very early, right? My mother had probably looking in at the situation. She probably had a little bit of postpartum depression, and it wasn't understood like it was understood now. But she had also had some traumatic experiences right before getting married. She knew my dad 2 weeks before they got married, got pregnant right away, lost a baby, and got pregnant right away. There was a lot of trauma, a lot of sadness, a lot of, right? Collateral damage. I'll have to say that. Firstborn, right? Right. And I had a difficult time. I'm just laying the brickwork so you can understand where I was at, right? When my sister said, "Will you go talk, Cindy, to mom and find out what she wants and explain to her what's going on," right? And I had that talk with her. And the moment I started that conversation, we didn't even talk about our relationship or anything. We did talk about what she wanted. I let her know that she was passing. I didn't even like touching my mother. Like like right? My mother never hugged me. She never kissed me. She never told me she loved me in her entire life, right? That I just had no connection with her, but I found myself with my palm of my hand on her forehead, and I was stroking her forehead. And in that moment, it was just an understanding that she was broken, and right. And yes, maybe I was collateral damage, and yes, maybe she had postpartum depression, right? And yes, maybe it wasn't right what had happened between us, but it happened, right? And it happened, and I had to understand that she did the very best with the tools that she had in the moment. But sometimes when those moments are over, you don't know how to get past that pain. You don't know, right? And even me, in experiencing that pain, there must have been some kind of reaction to that, right? She told me when I was a baby, I pushed her away, right? But in that moment of her death, um, and it wasn't even her death, it was she died that night, that very night, right? That I was had my palm on her head, and I stroked her head, and something just, and it was okay. Everything was okay, right? And my heart went out to her. Forgiveness came to her, right? From me. And I think too, she understood. She really truly understood what she had done, that no matter how the intent was to break, that I didn't break, that I still, in that moment, was a good daughter, that I was doing the very best that I could do, right? And she passed away that night. And it was strange that that night because, it had already been a few days. We're in the hospital. But that night when I left, I had left a coffee table book that I had brought with me to read while I was at the hospital. And, I just left it there. And every time I came, I would busy myself by reading the book and, right, just sitting with her. We all took turns. And then I just went to the shelf and I grabbed my book and I left. I knew I was never coming back. And that night she passed away. It was really strange. Not the fact that she passed away, and all of that was strange in itself, but the fact that I wholly forgave that, right? And it was true forgiveness. And I think in that moment, I still didn't understand what was going on. I still wasn't woken to any of these other ideas or anything. But in that moment, I really truly believe that that snowball that was just teetering, right? That's Cindy trying to stay balanced, right? My whole life just teetering, afraid to let go, right? Right? Just trying to control my own safety and the safety of my sisters, right? And I was just teetering, and in that moment, that snowball, right? Just like that sleigh on the edge of the mountain, like the Grinch would, right? They were teetering, right? And that snowball started, I think, in that moment. This, where I'm sitting here right now, we got forgiveness. We got forgiveness, you guys. This is important, especially for people who have gone through trauma, especially for those children who have complex, those adults who have complex trauma, but who are all right. When you have complex trauma, that child is still there, right? Because you stop in that moment looking at somebody as that person who's a caregiver, because now they are the perpetrator, right? And we have to overcome and have to understand a little bit. And I get it. There is no excuse for that vile slander, that vile guilt and shame that is purposely, right, programmed and intently meant to shock you and have that directed at me, physically directed at me, as if that was the normal, right? As if that was right, as if that was discipline, when in actuality it was manipulation, it was brainwashing, it was rejection, it was neglect, it was physical and emotional and mental abuse, right? And I was able to get past that genuinely, genuinely, to give that, right? Because, yeah, you hear all the time, right? You got to do that for yourself. You have to forgive for yourself. But I didn't do it just for myself. I did it for, well, maybe unconsciously, parts of me did it because I knew that there was something after, right? And she would need that forgiveness to be able to maybe try again to do better next time, right? And the reward for me in doing that is this opportunity that I have now to do that for myself, like I did that for my mother, that I could do that for myself now, right? Because I have those lessons. I know that I matter, that I know that some of those lessons that I got, a lot of those lessons that I got did not serve me. A lot of that programming that I got didn't serve me, but it happened. And so now it's in my choices whether or not I'm going to ignore it and just carry on the best that I can. Am I going to punish the human in me, or I'm going to punish those other parts of me for it even happening, right? What you think about is realized, and I have to remember, right, that I'm not the only one thinking in this game. And I'm calling it a game, but it's not a game. It's just say like a horde of ants or termites or souls, even just crawling over each other just to survive, just to, and yes, we have to, no matter what, we survive, but we can't survive off the struggle and the pain of somebody else, because there has to be some, I'm trying to think of the word, there has to be some, I'm just going to say some lessons. There just has to be some lessons in that, because it's not right. Through the majority we move, and if that's majority thought, it's not right, right? But even though it's not right, we have to put ourselves in the shoes of what's not right and take a look at it as to why it's not right. And if we are judging, right, then we have to really look at it and put ourselves in somebody else's shoes so that we can fully see, right, that was it with intent, or was that intent just the fuel, right, of the what is it, who is it that says there is no justifiable reason for resentment? That is right on the tip of my tongue. As soon as I hung up, I'm gonna go, oh my goodness, there it was, right? There it was. I grew up, you'll hear me do lots with quotes. I try not to do lots and lots of it because I don't want to live by somebody else's quote. I want to experience the experience of that quote, and experience and believe it for myself, and not just believe it because somebody else, right, said it, right? Somebody told you to jump off the bridge, right? That's going to feel like jello when you hit it. Would you do it? No, you have to get the proper information. You have to have that experience yourself, right? Probably jump into the water from the shoreline rather from the bridge first. Okay, you guys, we got forgiveness this week, right? It's a big word. It was the beginning for me. It cracked. It was the first little crack. I truly believe that it was. And then once that crack happened, so many other ones happened in sequencing, just like these words. I knew forgiveness was going to be one of the top words. Okay, it's number 16. There's a reason for that. But there was a reason for the other words. And even though I think that word forgiveness was a very, very important word, because it's what cracked me open first to help all these other lessons come to me so that I could, right, get a crack on creating the best human being I possibly can. And that means that I have to take care of all parts of me, right? Whether it's emotional, physical, mental, right? And I have to understand in that programming I have limitations, right? And I am bumbling along just like everybody else. And, I am no worse for wear in the process so far. So far, right? But it's because I do the baby steps. Because, right, I do a little bit, I digest a little bit, once it feels comfortable, or I failed a few times that, fourth or fifth time I finally get it. Oh, okay, that's all I got to do, right? Right? Or like I was talking yesterday about Elvis doing that quad, and now everybody can do the quad, but it just takes somebody to take those first steps, right? And the message for me, right, is going to be different than the message, right, that you're going to get, because you have different goals. You're a different person. You have a different upbringing, probably a different nationality, different religious denomination. I'm not religious in any way, right? In all truth, I have to say, I'm not spiritual in any way either. I am a realist. I am, right? I need to see the evidence. And I know, because I run with majority, right, that we're living in a world where the majority has lost its faith in something bigger than themselves. And it's a free for all. And not only is it for free for all, it's a free fall. Get it? Like people are just dropping, and there really isn't any need for that. There really isn't. And I think a lot of us are kind of seeing that we're kind of just absorbing everybody else's ideas. And then we hear an idea, and that idea gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until that idea is the majority. And that idea might be so far off the chart, and until somebody can get us straightened and get us back to that main trunk, or get us onto the right trunk, we're gonna run with that as the majority, right? So I would like to hear lots of perspectives, right? Because I'm making decisions in those movements, those decisions for myself. And because I come in here fresh like a loaf of bread and share a few of those lessons, that maybe others along the way might want to make a little bit of movement in their own life, right? Right? It takes one person to take that step, right? Nothing gets finished, nothing gets started without that action. I got my glasses today. It took a bit of a load off. I'm grateful for that, but we're right back in it tomorrow because, right, I promised that I was going to get my last installment of my vacation in September up. So we'll make sure that we work all day tomorrow on that video, and we're going to do laundry and things around the house, right? And maybe Wednesday we'll get out and about because I'll feel better because, right, we've released a lot of that stuff that was on our plate that was making us stressed out, right? And I have to remember, right, that if I feel that I'm stressed out, then in those baby steps, I should be doing something to help alleviate. And usually that process is in that little bit of enjoyment that we have for ourselves. Okay, you guys, that was pretty incredible. I was waiting for that word forgiveness. I'm going to come back at it with a little bit of different perspective. I'm gonna, of course, do a little bit of googling tomorrow. See who's the thought leader out there that's got the lesson for me. Well, I usually let YouTube decide. They already know. They probably got a bunch of videos waiting for me already on this topic of forgiveness. That I think it is amazing. an amazing word to have this week, especially for, right, what we're going through, for the crazy town that it is, you know, for those relationships that have taken on a lot of strain in the past few years. Remember, right? We've been locked down for quite a while. We have been with our loved ones and we have been with our friends and right and we're all under a little bit of stress over, you know, the happenings, and not just in our own world, but because we're this close to the whole world, we're getting it live. It's like evening news, 6 o'clock evening news, any moment of the day. I don't want to be addicted to that. I got stuff to do, right? And if I get what I need to get done, wow, right? And if each one of us makes that little bit of movement in the things that they know they need to get done, stop procrastinating, Cindy. I've really been taking on that role of procrastinator. I really have. But it's only because there have been things on the plate. And the funny thing is, I'm getting the stuff done. I'm getting the stuff done. I'm doing it in the baby steps. I'm doing it in digestible bites, right? Just to not put me in that high stress or to put me in those bad moods like my sister Alice was in today, right? Right? That I can smile, that I can whistle while I work, right? That I can take it in these important lessons, right? Because this word forgiveness was probably, I've had lots of words. Man, the word I had, acceptance, I didn't even know if I was going to be able to talk for 15 minutes on the word acceptance. And oh my goodness, it was like being on the roller coaster all week long. Like acceptance, that was a crazy one. I would never have thought that I had work to do in that. But boy, right? I found out quick on that one. But we'll see where forgiveness gets us this week, right? I am curious, and I'm a little bit nervous because you guys know I've been saying I wanted to get my teeth in this word forgiveness, right? So I better be prepared in that. But that preparedness is in my experiences, right? But maybe we'll look at it tomorrow, within somebody else's experience. That might be a good idea. Or somebody else's perspective, which is just as good idea. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer, and we'll see each other tomorrow.